Conwell. I'm the mayor of Mission, and we're here this evening to talk about the transportation utility fee. And the purpose for this meeting and the meeting that we had last week is for people to be able to ask questions about that transportation utility fee that have questions. There's been a lot that's been floating around in the paper and on talk radio. First, I want to start kind of at the beginning with the streets and the roads in Mission. As most of you know, Mission's been incorporated for nearly 60 years, but it's a much older community than that, as is our infrastructure. In the time that I've been an elected official, which has now been about 10 and a half years in Mission, the roads have been a concern, and we've continued to redo and repair roads as we can in process. But several years ago, because it was such a primary concern and complaint, and then as we were going through a lot of the redevelopment that we've been doing in Mission, our infrastructure has been a concern. We went ahead and had an inventory done of our roads. And this board that's all the way to my right, your left, it was the result of that study. We hired engineers to go check our roads and find out the condition of our roads, because we put a lot of money into those roads every year, and we want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck, because just spending a little bit probably doesn't save all of us a lot of money in the end. And so this analysis was completed in late 2008, early 2009, and we went through the process of trying to figure out how much the road repairs would cost, because we found out that we had a number of roads that had really deteriorated to the point they needed to be completely replaced. We had some other roads that are getting near that. The last 2 winters have been really, really hard on our roads, and this was completed before we had the last 2 bad winters. This has also gone out into the newsletter and the special newsletter that we've had. It's also posted on the web. On the next slide shows on the road maintenance and road construction expenses. What we've learned in this process was that if we go ahead and replace some of our roads that are bad and repair our roads that are near failing and get them up to a level, and Mike will tell you the exact grade because I don't remember all the grades, we can really extend the life of our roads and save us money in the long run, rather than just allowing our roads to continue to fail. The chart on my right talks about the total transportation funding. When we looked at our roads and the infrastructure improvements that we needed as it relates to all that transportation infrastructure, we determined that to do it over a 10-year period of time, and the total cost to do a number of the replacements, and this is commercial and residential roads, is about $38 million. And one of the things we've been very successful with in Mission is leveraging our dollars to other dollars that are available out there, either through the county or through the federal government, or different grants that are available. And the chart to my left in the middle that has the green, blue, and red shows the amount of money that we have secured for our projects in the last 5 years for the city of Mission. The other thing that this chart on the right shows is over the summer we had a number of public meetings about what to do with our infrastructure, and then also how to pay for the infrastructure, and which was just continuing the conversation that we've been having with the community. And in June we had the conversation where we talked about what our different specific needs were in the community. Transportation is really our most pressing need, but we also have other needs in that we have a failing pool. We have issues at City Hall. We're continuing to work on our stormwater and our different trails and amenities that as we've gone through our visioning process have been priorities for the community. We want to make sure that we're ready for that redevelopment, and when we have sanitary systems and roads and a lot of the water lines that are 80, in many places 80 plus years old and they're failing, those need to be replaced. And for those of you who regularly drive through Mission like I do, this summer about every other week, and also last summer, there was a water main popping somewhere. And we've been very successful also as we've gone in to replace roads in Mission to coordinate with the utility companies so that they can get in and replace those aging lines. Wastewater has done that, so sewers are getting replaced. Martway's a perfect example. Over in front of Mission Bowl, when we went in there, we coordinated with wastewater and with stormwater, and so there are new water run lines and new stormwater lines and infrastructure that are under that road. But as a result of the public forums we had in August, when we talked about the funding, we divided in the two different meetings. We had residents and businesses and property owners. We divided people into different tables to talk and to talk about different funding sources, because that's really been our conversation over the past year. Is we've got this big issue, we need to get our arms around it, and here are the ideas that we have as the city government. If there are residents or businesses that have other ideas, please share them. What resulted from those meetings that we had in August was we right now receive some special highway money from the state of Kansas, and we want to continue receiving that. And that's a portion of, those are funds that are collected by the state that go out and are dispersed to the community. And then the other thing that we wanted to do was, in talking specifically about the transportation utility fee, was to work at spreading that fee so that everyone that drives on the roads and uses our roads contributes to it. And that's different than what some of the other funding that we've had. If you raise the mill, we'd have to raise our mill 10 mills to match this transportation utility fee. And what this transportation utility fee does for us, it helps create that separate pot of money, a transparent pot, which as a result of our meetings, people appreciate it. They like to know we're having sort of a dedicated fee that's coming in for a dedicated purpose. The other thing that came out fairly strongly with the residents and the businesses that were present is they want us to reauthorize a 1/4-cent sales tax. Right now in the city of Mission, our sales tax rate is 1.5%. 1% goes in our general fund. 1/4% is used to pay off the community center bonds that was used for our expansion of this community center. And those bonds will be able to be, or the tax will be able to be retired in the first quarter of 2011, about 1.5 years early. And one of the things that we talked about in the available sources of revenue was to put that 1/4-cent back to a vote and authorize it for another 10 years and have it be specifically for transportation. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, the plan is a 10-year plan. The other thing that the residents and businesses talked to us about is they wanted us to continue to contract our general fund budget, which council did. Council's contracted the general fund budget and has reduced the mill by 2 mills for our upcoming budget year, which begins January 1, so for 2011. The sales tax is something that has to go into the ballot. That's something that's going to require additional community meetings to talk to residents, because that'll need to go out, and that's was the second piece of it. With the transportation utility fee, the way the state of Kansas works, we have to turn our budgets in on August 25th. And our city council meeting was August 18th. And so council was faced with needing to go ahead and authorize the transportation utility fee, because at no point during any of our meetings that we've had, or any of the newsletters or any of the feedback, was it don't fix the roads, don't fix the transportation, our sales infrastructure system. Those are things we need to continue to do, and we need to continue to invest in the community. So that's that chart. We'd had a number of questions, and Mike's provided us with the transfers out of general fund, and this shows what our transfers have been out of our general fund over the last 6-7 years. And then finally, there were questions about our general fund and some of the expense items that were in our general fund, and this shows of our different contractual services that and shows really how that's divided out and how those are spent. And we run, although I know that Ryan is concerned about a few of our expenditures, like the holiday party that we have at the end of the year. I mean, we run a pretty tight ship when you look at what we try to do with those services on trying to get the most value for the dollars that we have available. And that really brings us to where we are today. Council voted on the 18th of August on new budget, which was a contracted budget, and reduced our mill by 2 and authorized the transportation utility fee. And I woke up the next morning at 5 a.m. with a call from a radio station wanting to talk about the driveway tax. It's not a driveway tax, it's a transportation utility fee, and it doesn't matter how many driveways you have. What matters is kind of a square footage and use. And many of you I know have already been in communication with Mr. Scanlon on what those are. Most of our small businesses that are in our downtown corridor will be paying, I think, between $200 and $300 a year, and we have that calculated for over a 10-year period. They're not going to be paying $3,500. Residents, because we've done it on a use, will be paying $72 with the maximum authorization. Now, the sales tax, if the sales tax passes, then the transportation utility fee won't need to be as great. Council authorized the full amount, and the $72 is the full amount. With the quarter-cent sales tax passing, that'll get reduced by about, a third to half. And so that can be offset by, for both businesses and for residents. Let's see. Oh, then the one other thing that the community members that were with us at our funding meetings, if there are unique situations when we're going on working on the roads, and some of the examples were like on a cul-de-sac or a dead end, and there's something that's peculiar to a particular street. We were also encouraged to look at some type of an assessment for those expenses and do for those particular property owners, since it's unique, rather than have that be a cost that's spread over the entire community. When most of the roads were originally put in, they were assessed to the property owners, and we did rule out that option simply because we didn't think, let's just take Johnson Drive or Broadmoor as examples, that those small businesses that are on those roads really could absorb the expense of that kind of road construction and infrastructure construction. So we tried to go through a way that was pretty fair and across the board, and divided that money and so that everyone would contribute. We did have one resident that after city council came, and I don't see him here tonight, but I know he's around, that had suggested we do a full half cent on sales tax as opposed to a quarter cent on the sales tax, because the half cent would pretty much, it would get us, probably it would get us all the way there. We might need a little bit of the transportation utility fee, but it probably would be able to cover the entire amount. But that's something that we need to have when we talk about reauthorizing that quarter cent sales tax, if we wanted to put it to a vote and have it be a half cent rather than a quarter cent. And so that's obviously something that I'm open for discussion for, as I know the rest of council is. And I think that pretty well kind of covers the history. And does anyone have any specific questions?
And then on your flyer here, it says 60% of commercial properties will pay less than $1,000 a year, which means 40% will pay more than $1,000. What type of business would be at that $1,000 mark? Size-wise,
if Bob Hartman is here, Hartman Hardware would be a good one, with all of the properties that are associated with the hardware store. So there's like 3. I want to say it's about 7,200 square feet.
Some commercial businesses are the 40%.
If you use 250, so 40% would be 90. And when you say commercial business, it's commercial uses.
Commercial graphics too.
Yeah. So like the Johnson County offices, Johnson County wastewater, AT&T on Swift, Ivy, Target,